Rich Slaton here for the University of Mixed Martial Arts. I'm sitting with World Kickboxing Hall of Famer Don the Dragon Wilson. 72 wins and 82 fights with 48 knockouts. That's a lot of knockouts. First, what does it feel like to knock a man cold?
Very good. I like it. Actually, it's a good feeling. I know I shouldn't. You know, normally it's a thing that's illegal, knocking people unconscious. But for some reason, when I do it, everybody loves it. You know, they like it. It's better for my career.
Who wouldn't?
So, yeah, you don't really feel it. You know, when you throw a punch and you hit them right, they just go to sleep.
What is your favorite knockout from your career?
Gosh, you know, nobody has asked me that question before. My favorite knockout. I think it was against a guy named Cikatic, though. And the favorite was because I was supposed to lose the fight. I was the underdog. Even though I was the champion, I was considered the underdog. He was undefeated. He was the European champion, Thai boxing champion, and he put me up against the ropes, and I countered his right hand with my right hook and knocked him out. And that was a big win for me back then.
It's a good way to put a guy down.
Yeah, actually, that one punch ruptured his eardrum. I'm pointing at that right there. Ruptured the eardrum. I'm looking at it. Yeah, he kind of like give me a Bronco look without the beard. The ruptured the eardrum, broke the jaw. When he hit the ground, it broke his nose.
That sounds not as fun for him, though.
No.
So, a very long fight career, a lot of big fights, a lot of great fights. Do you remember your first fight?
Oh, absolutely. I lost my first fight.
What do you remember about that experience? From preparing to walking out. I know it's tough. It's a loss.
It was 1974. No. You know what? I never got into the win-loss thing, even to this day. The win-loss is just a number on a. You know who knows your win-loss record when you retire? And I know this because I've retired 3 times now. Nobody but you. That's it. You remember you win. Nobody else. You said, oh, I won some fights. But the thing of it is, I took it, the martial arts, to become a better martial arts. I took it to become better with my self-defense. And so the striking art of kickboxing improved my martial arts. So whether I won or lost, I knew I was improving my punching and kicking and elbows and knees. So I was a winner in every fight because I was improving.
So let's talk about that first fight. Do you remember your emotions leading up to that fight?
You know what? I have to say I was pretty scared because we thought back in those days that, you know, a kick to the face, you'd be dead. And I was fighting on a concrete floor, exactly like this, basically. Concrete just like this to the knockout. Now, what happens if you get hit in the chin, you're stunned, you go down on this?
Oof.
Well, it wouldn't have been a pretty sight, right? But we didn't know any better. It was 1974, first fights in the state of Florida. I wish I was in Florida. It was in Orlando, Florida. And luckily, nobody knew how to knock anybody out. We all hit each other with all slapping punches and bad kicks, and everybody was out of shape. And it was the first fights, you know, some of the first fights ever in America, 1974. And we all survived, luckily. Nobody got knocked out, and I fell in love with the sport. I broke my hand, lost the fight, lost money because it cost more than I got paid to set my hand. So when you can do all those negative things and still love it, have a great time, then you found something that is right for you.
Do you remember any of the mistakes that you made as a young fighter just starting out? Not necessarily in the cage, but as preparing yourself mentally and physically and emotionally?
Well, mistakes in my training would be fighting in this ring right here. You don't fight in here, you train in here. And there's a reason they call it your sparring partner. He's not somebody you're competing with. You're not supposed to hurt the guy, and he's not supposed to hurt you. You're working together to improve each other. And I didn't have that. I have that now. I'm almost 60 years old. It took me 60 years, but when I was young, it was all about knocking each other out. When I got in the ring to spar anybody, whether I was boxing or kickboxing or whatever, I was trying to hurt the guy, and he was trying to hurt me. And if I could give any advice to young fighters, that's not the way to train. It's not the way to train. Luckily for me, I started changing, and by the middle of my career, I used the gym and sparring partners as assets to my training, not as competition. I'm trying to prove something. So, yeah, that was a mistake I made my training.
Yeah, knocking out your training partner is never that good.
Oh, I knocked out plenty of them.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't one of them. So, what's the one fight you wish you had you never got to have?
Oh,
is there
you know
one?
What? There's many. And you know, you just go on YouTube or Facebook where everybody's asking, why didn't you fight this guy and this guy? And the thing of it is, people try to make it like the fight never happened between, let's say, me and Rob Common. And they think, well, because I'm ducking him or he's ducking me. But the reality is, neither one of us are promoters. I don't promote fights. So when I got fight offers, if I had gotten fight offers to fight people and I thought they were in a business way smart, I would have taken the fights. Because I did not believe I was out ducking anybody. I was out to improve my martial art ability, and the best way to do that is to fight the stiffest competition.
What was the biggest mental lesson or mental change that made you go from a good fighter to a great fighter?
I think one of the things that happened over possibly a period of time, and now I know, because I see other people teaching these techniques, and you know, they call it the power of positive thinking or mental imagery. And I just remember people saying, do you ever meditate? And I thought, no, I really don't sit there and meditate. But then I realized something. I used to run 6 miles or 9 miles, depending on what I felt like every morning. And I did that for 10 years. There was not a day, unless I had an injury or sickness, I didn't run 6 miles or 9 miles on the beach. And while I was doing that, the entire time, I was only thinking about how I was going to knock my opponent out. I went over, I just envisioned kicking him in the head, hitting him in the body. I never envisioned him hitting me, ever. So I'm not saying that positive thinking will make you win all the time, but it's like a tightrope walker would tell you. The way they walk across tightropes, across it like a cliff, is all they do is put one foot in front of the other. They only think about putting that, and it's a very simple thing. You learn to walk when you're 2 years old. But if you think about, oh my God, I'm 1,000 feet up, if I fall, if you start concentrating on the ground, that's where you'll go. You go, it's like a law of man, like there's a law of nature, there's the law of man. Where your mind goes, your body will soon follow. If you concentrate on something negative, you're going to go there. And if you think about, you watch the guy and he's got a great right hand, you think, oh God, he's going to hit me with that right hand, you start getting scared, you are drawing your destiny right to that right hand. And if there's a lesson to be learned in any athletics, whether it's basketball, football, MMA, I wrestled in college, like I said, I did many sports, thinking positively, envisioning yourself accomplishing it, you're more likely to have success than the other way around.
So Don, what's your favorite fight scene from a movie?
Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris.
Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris.
And you know what? There's not a single technique they throw that any green belt could throw. It's not that they're doing backflips or they're doing something so physically impossible to do that only Bruce Lee or Chuck Norris. It's the fact that we, the knowing audience, the educated audience, know that they were both great fighters, that they were icons of the martial arts in their own way. Now, Bruce Lee was like Einstein. Even though he didn't compete in fighting, his theories are what we're going by today. The mixing of the martial arts, those gloves, the Jeet Kune Do gloves, that's what they're kind of using now.
Yeah.
You could punch and grab. So he was like our version of Einstein. Chuck Norris, on the other hand, was a 160-pound fighter who beat everybody in America. You know, American fighters were considered the best in the world at those times, karate fighters. When our American teams would go to Europe, they'd win all the tournaments. So Chuck was like an icon in the martial arts, and Bruce Lee in the real martial arts, not just actors. And when they faced off, it was, to me, it was just great. It was just a great fight scene. I love it to this day.
Is there one technique or one hit from that scene that really just stands out in your memory?
The moment when Bruce Lee lets Chuck off, he tells Chuck is injured, and he looks at him and he gives him a shake like, don't get up. It's basically he doesn't want to have to kill him. And that stood out because, of all the martial art action sequences that have been shot with thousands of, all over in movies all over the world, that one is still by everybody who watches movies considered the best. And so that part where he let Chuck off, you don't see that very often. You don't see the good guy telling the bad guy, don't. Matter of fact, when he killed Chuck Norris, they had a close-up of him as he's killing him, and he had a remorseful look on his face. If you go back and you watch that's on YouTube, anybody can watch it. You look in Bruce Lee's face, and it's almost like he's sad that he did it. And he shows the respect. He puts the gi over Chuck Norris and bows to him. And I don't know, it's just every beat of that classic matchup is strong and resonates. And to this day, people watch it.
Is there any martial arts technique you haven't learned yet that you really want to learn?
Well, heck, with the death touch.
The death touch.
They'll touch you, and then 2 weeks later, sorry to say, you'd be getting kind of dizzy.
I'm nervous
think
just
it's the big
talking
one.
about it.
Not that I, we actually did touch. I bumped into you with my knee, and the death touch from under can be delivered. The chi can go through the knee, elbow. No.
Guys?
No, there's no technique. You know what I'd like to do which is because I primarily my thing, even though I was a collegiate wrestler, I concentrated mainly on the striking, and I spent many years, 28 years as a professional fighter, perfecting my striking skills. And now I would like to spend some time with the grappling. I think I would like to do that. It's a time thing. That's all it is. I just don't have time right now to go to the gym. I have to basically sneak out for my wife to just hit the bag for an hour.
Don, thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you.
Don the Dragon Wilson. You can find him online at
Don the Dragon Wilson.
There we go. DonTheDragonWilson.com.
Oh, you know what? Can we mention one more thing?
Perfect.
Before we go, I got the new clothing line that my brother and I are coming out with, Traditions with a Z. Order yours at traditionswithaz.us.
Find this and more interviews at uofmma.com.